I want to mention also the groundwater system is being done in 2 phases. I have just almost completed phase 1, where the biggest Lake Iris is. The extraction system or the groundwater remediation system, we haven't started the construction for that yet.
But yet again, we're putting more dirt.
But that lake is subject to be partially. That's where the car dealership is going to utilize part of that lake. And I'm going to talk to Mr. Tillman. Have agree with me last week on Friday that he's promised me that he's not going to drop 1 pound of any material, whether clean or dirty, as required by law, into any lake without providing me with the monitoring well, so we can ensure that we're monitoring the water quality while they're being backfilled, the lake being backfilled.
Thank you. I suggest that we do a motion in order for us to move on this.
I have one more thing. Concern about what has been said up here, the suggestion or recommendation. If it doesn't break, why would we fix it? First of all, I think that if we're going to put money on the side to actually hire the outside counsel, when our current counsel right now is not broken, is actually taking care of it, I don't consider the city to put money on the side to hire the outside counsel to deal with the biscuit lending issues, if we can do it right now. And the other concern that I have, why is it that we need to hire an independent consultant to go retest it when we already know like it's dirty? So I don't understand the dynamic behind
my
hiring.
proposal is because there is a violation of a contract, contract that we have with them.
I don't think that you mentioned it. I think
I mentioned that also. I'll talk about that.
Okay.
It's a violation of a contract, and based on that, that's what I said.
No, I'm not.
We have 2 items
I'm not referring
before
about
us.
contract. I'm referring to independent environmental agencies to actually go and retest the soil.
Oh, okay.
So.
Through the mayor, councilwoman.
Before we get there, maybe after we heard Mr. Celestin, we should give Biscuit Lending a chance to speak. Is anybody from Biscuit Lending wishes to speak?
Hello, I'm Herb Tillman with Olita Partners at the Biscayne Landing site, 15045 Biscayne Boulevard, North Miami, Florida. I'd just like to clarify a few things that you may have heard here tonight. First of all, I want to be crystal clear about one issue, and that is that we followed the standard process in requesting approval from the county, who is the regulatory authority for this county, before we purchased or brought 1 spoonful of that material on our site. We received that approval. 194,000 yards later, that approval was rescinded. We respected that rescission letter and did not bring another piece on site, and have not to this day. Nor have we moved any of it at the request of your staff since Thursday. We have not put 1 piece of it in the lake, in any lake on that site. As far as the suggestion to hire an independent engineer, we welcome that. Don't have a problem with that at all, because there have been at least 4 other engineers and scientists, authorities that have tested this material and retested it yet again. So we know what they're going to find. Don't have a problem with you doing that. We do object, however, to not being allowed to bring any fill on that site. We have a large project here. We have 184 acres, as you know. We want to get moving with it. We want to employ city residents. We want to spend money to develop that site. To stop the entire job over this fill issue, I think, is not the best decision for the city, for their residents, or for the developer in this case. I understand the ire that I've drawn from
You're about to draw some more. Mr. Tillman, how dare you tell us what's right for our community? Your petition to the county back in the spring to bring this fill here, did you mention to the county at that time it would be unclean fill? Did you get permission to bring unclean fill?
Sir? Can you allow me to answer that?
Yes.
We offered to the county to further characterize the material, that is, to test it, because the people that operated the site where it was coming from have tested it. They assured us it was similar to concrete rubble.
So you did not ask to bring unclean fill onto, your request was to bring clean fill onto the landfill.
Okay, Mr. Galvin,
It's a yes or no. Yes or no, Mr. Tillman. In your original request to the county back in the spring, now 9 months ago, did you request, you keep saying they granted your request, did you request to bring unclean fill onto the landfill?
No, we requested to characterize the material, that is, to test it, to have them determine if it was still approved to be brought to the site. They responded.
So now I'll go to Durham. Durham.
They
Did
are
you
the
approve?
regulatory authority in this
Durham.
in
Did
this
you? We're going to have
county. Yes, sir, I did.
Durham. Did you approve clean fill on this site, or did you approve unclean landfill dumping?
Contaminated dumping.
Contaminated.
The initial approval did not have all the chemicals of concern because we only received the MSDS data that shows the aluminum as an added chemical.
Can you speak louder, please?
I will, yes, I will certainly do that. When the initial characterization of grout, there is a sampling procedure that includes certain metals. When those initial characterization results did not show the aluminum because it was not included. When we received the concern from the city, we requested the MSDS, we look at the specific information there, and we actually ran then for specifically the aluminum. The other chemicals were fine, as I said before. It was the finding of the additional chemical of concern, aluminum, that rendered the initial approval letter no longer valid, and we acknowledged that, and we rescinded the letter.
Right. So it's pretty clear to me what you granted approval for in January or February was not what you found in May. That's why you rescinded your reuse permit.
Yes, because we did not have that aluminum data.
Okay.
Correct.
So, Mr. Tillman, come on. Let's be honest. Your petition was to bring in clean fill. If there's anything less than clean fill, you're already telling me now you were in violation of 9.1 of your own lease. So under 9.1, it says specifically you can't bring, house, or use any type of contaminated landfill. That meant you meant to bring on clean fill in your original application to the county. You didn't do that. Get it out of there. I don't want to spend money on other testing and all that. All of that is time lost as this material is now continuously exposed to the rain, to the water, and to the wind and our residents. We've got people living in the Biscayne Landing Oaks Towers that are 100, 200 feet from some of this dump. Okay. You raised your eyebrow. 300.
Can we let him continue, Councilman? I understand your frustration,
No more
but please
lectures on
give
what's
him a
good for
chance
this
to
city.
continue his
Vice Mayor, I'm just
presentation.
giving you my beliefs and my position on the matter, and you can take it as you wish. I'm sorry if I offended you, but I have to do this. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is the material has been approved for other uses above the groundwater table. And if you'd like Mr. Mayorga to speak to that, I'm sure he'd be more than willing to, but that was approved by the county regulatory authority as well. So before you rule on whether or not somebody's going to take it off the site, I ask that you consider that before you do so. And I'd like Cliff Schulman to further speak.
But you
on
even
that
offered
here.
in your presentation to the Quality Environmental Control Board on September 12th, you said one of your options could be to remove all of this fill. I read the verbatim minutes. I took the time to read all 58 pages over the weekend when I got them.
Yes, sir. And there are several other options.
You
Absolutely.
said that was one of your options. So like I'm saying, this council's position should be, that's the option. Get the contaminated fill out of there.
You've
and
made
until
your
you do,
position clear,
no
sir.
more work at Biscayne Landing. Sorry if that costs you money. Sorry if that slows you down. We got $17.5 million up front. We'll wait while you fix the contamination you've caused.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Cliff Schulman. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Weiss, Road and Helfman, 2525 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Coral Gables, Florida. Let me start out with something very important that for some reason is not being heard. Let me read you from the Durham recommendation to the Environmental Quality Control Board. Staff believes that granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, welfare, and safety, and will not materially increase the level of pollution in this county. Now, Mr. Mayorga repeated that. What he told you was there was one chemical out of 90, and none of them exceeded public health standards. There was no threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. There was an exceedance, and number two, that exceedance never got into the groundwater. They tested, and they could not find it in the groundwater. And number three, with the conditions that are being put on that variance, there is little, if any, likelihood that this chemical, which is not a danger to the public health, safety, or welfare, will get into the groundwater. Otherwise, I've known Mr. Mayorga for more years than he and I would like to count. He would not have recommended that variance to the Environmental Quality Control Board. And I don't even think I have to look behind me to see him go, right, okay? Because Wilbur and I have gone over this many, many times before. So, nothing in the groundwater, no leaching, a chemical of concern, but not of any public health concern. Now, with the utmost of respect to the city, I'm a lawyer, I gotta do my legal thing. There is no violation of the lease, period. You can search that lease from cover to cover, all 150 pages of it. You will not see the word clean fill. You can look at 9.1 and 9.2 till you're blue in the face. You will not see anything. We have to comply with environmental laws. That is our obligation. There has been no notice of violation given to this project from its inception. And with the utmost respect to the manager, he is not capable, nor does he have the authority to enforce the, quote, environmental laws. That authority reposits in the guy behind me and a bunch of guys up in Tallahassee, where we are operating under an existing permit and have never been cited for a violation of, quote, environmental law. So there's no provision in the lease, and I have searched your code from cover to cover, and you do not have any regulatory authority. The regulator sits behind me and sits down in Dade County. That regulator says it's okay. So, from a legal point of view, we question your authority either under the lease or under your code. We believe that authority rests solely and exclusively with Miami-Dade County Department of Environmental Resources Management, or whatever they call themselves nowadays, because they've changed the name 3 times in the last year and a half. So, with that said, I'm here to answer any questions in that regard.
Councilman Galvin, I'd like to bring your attention to Chapter 24 of the Miami-Dade Code that the county must follow. It clearly states only clean fill can be used to backfill a lake. And if you look at the first page of the report says the reason they wanted a variance is to use unclean fill, as clean fill is the law, the current law. Okay. So if this field has been...
Mr. Celestin, regardless of what the law says, I think in all decency, whether the contracts did mention clean field, does that make it okay for them to bring contaminated field in the city? No. That can be hazardous to our resident? Whether the contract didn't say clean, dirty, whatever, is it okay? Does that make it okay? And on the legal point of view, you guys want to talk, you guys want to bring your legal rights, but also we have to bring the rights of our residents as well, the welfare and the health of the residents. Now, I believe we should go and formulate a motion regarding this, how we're going to proceed with the whole situation, and we'll take it from there.
You want to open public
There's no public hearing on this. Okay. Maybe we should. Maybe we should listen to the residents.
You think you should?
I think I should. Let's open public hearings on this. They both work now. They're okay.
I think if you
both of them work.
They work.
Madam Mayor. I am not a resident, but I'm speaking for Malcolm Drilling. Is it okay for me to speak?
You have to project. It doesn't really pick up unless you.
What's going on with this thing?
They cut it out.
Can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Keith Tolson. I'm not a resident, but I'd like to speak on behalf of Malcolm Drilling. Is that okay?
Malcolm Drilling.
Malcolm Drilling. So I'm
Is that
Dr.
a
Keith
law
Tolson.
firm?
I'm a toxicologist and environmental scientist with Geosyntec and also faculty at the University of Florida. I've been an environmental scientist for about 20 years. Prior to my time with Geosyntec, I actually was a contractor for both the state of Florida and DERM, and in the technical lead for Chapter 24. It's essentially developing the numerical targets for Mr. Mayorga on the cleanup targets that would be appropriate. I'm not going to go into a list of sort of things I've put down here to sort of rebut some of the issues that have been spoken today, because one, I don't think you're going to believe me, because I'm working for Malcolm Drilling. But I'd like to say that from my perspective,
who's walking Berlin?
He's a firm that he works for, and he's a scientist.
Do you work for the county, Mr. Swerdlow? I don't get.
It would be for the developers. One of the entities for the developers. So, but I would like, from my perspective, I look at this material, and there's a lot of discussion about it being toxic and being harmful to health. And I think, as Mr. Mayorga pointed out, there are no health concerns here. There's not a cancer that's going to come from the disposal of this material there. And I'll let you respond to that. But the material does not violate the Section 24 rules. As I understand those are, we do not have a violation of those there. And I welcome an independent review, a university review, with scientists who are familiar with this to sort of weigh in on that, because I think that they'll come to that exact same conclusion. The evidence is pointing to this material is not a public health hazard. In fact, it's a very good beneficial reuse of this material, and I encourage the council to consider that as they're thinking about this.
Thank you. Any other?
Frank Woland again, and thank you, Mayor, for opening the public hearing again, and I want to commend the entire council for having citizens forum and having it at the beginning of the meetings so that people who are interested can come and be heard and not have to wait until late to be heard. The gentleman who just spoke, I scratched my head, and he's obviously a very respected and competent professor, and I said he works for Keith Colson. What's his address? Does he live in North Miami? Mr. Sullivan says, no, he works for the company that's doing the drilling at City Center. They want to get rid of the fill. I'm like, oh, okay. Which kind of brings me to the point that I think it would be prudent for the council, even though maybe 4 engineers have done whatever they've done, to do its own truly independent investigation. I certainly don't doubt, that Mr. Mayorga is qualified and that these other gentlemen are qualified. But having read the file, one of the things that I read early on in the file was that the developer, Olita Partners, wrote a letter to Durham and said, listen, you guys, you better think about what you're doing when you tell us we can't use this because we relied on you. And this may cost $1.5 million, and, better watch what you're doing. So there are a lot of influences at work, and I think our city would best be served by going slow. I respect Mr. Schulman a lot. He's a very, very competent attorney. He represented Durham for many years, and he knows what he's talking about. And again, I think the council should go slow and get your own attorneys and rely on your city attorney and other counsel that y'all may choose to employ. And, you drop something on somebody, 1, 2, 3, and they have to give opinions really fast. And it's not necessarily fair to everybody because, in the past in the past, we've spent years arguing and talking about the science of what's at Munisport and how dangerous it is and whether it violates the laws or the guidelines or not, okay? So you may decide that maybe the city wants to appeal the action of Durham, which was taken on September 12th. Maybe there are other alternatives or other permits that may or may not be required. You know, you heard Mr. Shulman talk about people at the state level. There are a lot of forces at play, and I am so grateful to the members of this council for their sensitivity to the health and welfare of the people of North Miami. And I will tell you that many years ago, there was a city council sitting where you were, and the manager there, a gentleman named Larry Casey, some of you may remember him, was going, no, don't let these guys who promised you a community center and tennis courts and a golf course, don't let them do this. Don't let them use garbage to make the hills for the golf course. And the council said, no, it's okay, Mr. Casey, we're going to do it. And after 6 or 8 years of saying no, Mr. Casey washed his hands of it, and the council went on to, you know, to create something which I guess they had the best intention at the time, but it ended up being a $30+ million morass. And I have to say that in my opinion, the city manager has acted in the best interests of the city, and he's followed this, and my hat's off to him and Mr. Celestin, because I think they've done the right thing for the city. It's not easy. It's not, it's not easy sitting where he sits. There are a lot of issues, but the real issue is this stuff as bad as it is? What's the legal position of the city? Are we going to put the city at legal risk if we go forward and stop them or stop their project, as opposed to simply saying what Durham is saying, don't put this stuff in the lake? I agree with Mr. Calvin. I want them to take it off. I think they should get rid of it, and I think they should have known better. Shame on them. But I also understand that I'm not an environmental scientist. I don't have a grasp on all the legal issues.
You know, you've been speaking for 2 and 45 minutes. Your time has passed, Mr. Woolen. Thank you
I'll
so
sit
much.
down.
Thank you, but we must respect the time limit.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else wishes to speak?
Really good again. I didn't expect to be up here this much. As you can see, reef to reef, I kind of like my oceans and stuff. You've been talking about
if you will,
testing the soil.
Sir, just state your name and address for the record.
Willie
again.
Goudat, 2100 Keystone Boulevard.
Thank you.
You've been talking about testing the soil, the pumping thing that's going in there, the lake and everything, but has anybody tested, and Durham usually is more environmental with...
Speak on the mic. Please on the mic, please.
Sorry. Grass beds, corals, and everything else. Has anybody done any water testing around that area? If there's any phosphates, nitrates, or what's the other one? I can't think of it now. That might be affecting the marine life. That's my concern, because I'm in the water, I see it, and I see that it's stressed. You know, there's something wrong there. I mean, you know, I've been going there for years, and this year it's been pretty bad there, you know. So that's my question. Is there any water testing in that area? You know, they're talking about soil, but, you know, people are in that water also. That's my...
Thank you. Public forum still going on?
William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. I too would like to express appreciation to the council for hearing this matter and the importance that it is, and giving it all the attention that it deserves. For many, many months, going back to January, I've expressed concern about the developer's approach to the plan at Biscayne Landing, where I have said that in some way, metaphorically, they have dumped on the city of North Miami, trying to get away with a series of really inadequate plans that are really detrimental to the well-being of the future citizens of this location and for all the citizens of North Miami and the greater region. That we don't need project-type housing and the other complications that they were about to impose on us. I have said on many occasions that it's like dumping on the city of Miami, that they've come here because they can get away with this. They can get away with anything, because $17.5 million is just about a giveaway once they sell one building. It was a giveaway. And now, rather than being fruitful to the people of North Miami, they have not. And now it's come to, rather than giving us a great community, they've even gone to the extent of getting away with things that we will actually physically dump on the people of North Miami. Not metaphorically, physically, they are dumping. This is not a characteristic of good intent, and I appreciate your vigilance on both the dumping issue and about going ahead with this plan so that it is in the best interest of the city of North Miami and the future residents of that community. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Public forum, still open. We have to let them speak.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council staff. John Allred, 2672 Northeast 135 Street. I guess I heard a different presentation, because the gentleman back here who's got 5 PhDs has worked on this. I feel a little bit deceived because I heard some people say lead and arsenic. He disputed that, said it's not below human level. I mean, it's not above human level, so it's not harmful to me because I live right by that site. I'd be really, really mad if there was some bad stuff on that site that can hurt me, my family, my 9-year-old nephew. I didn't hear him say that. If I didn't know any better, I walked in, I would have thought he works for the developer because he was so pro this material. So you've got people in here who want Monday morning quarterback this stuff that don't have a PhD. You might have a general contractor, he doesn't have a PhD, but you got the director of DERM who's approved this. If this stuff is so bad, why is the EPA not out there shutting this job down? It's got a trace amount of element, aluminum, above normal, but it's not going to hurt us according to DERM. I buy aluminum sulfate fertilizer for acid-loving plants. It's $9.50 for a 5-pound bag. Rhododendrons, hydrangeas, azaleas, gardenias, blueberries, they love acidic soil. They also like the aluminum in there. You heard from DERM. It's a naturally occurring higher elements here in Dade County. We have this material. I'm not saying bring bad material on this site, but don't shut this job site down. We've got people out there getting laid off. I was at a job fair at Biscayne Landing last Friday. Hundreds of people are wanting to work. Don't shut this job down. Analyze this stuff, but fast track it. Don't put this on the back burner, do a Japanese inspection, just let it sit there and the whole job goes to crap. Shut it down, Scott. That's crazy. Stupid. I'm sorry. I disagree with you on that. Don't punish them like that. Don't punish the little guys. Don't punish my guys that I have to lay off because there's a dispute here. Listen to DERM. Listen to these environmental regulatory agencies. That's what we pay them for. EPA, DERM, trust them. Those are the people you trust. I don't believe there's anybody in this city, works for the city, that has the degree. Maybe Aleem, he can read the report. We can all read the report. But you got to trust DERM. I don't think it's fair to the little guys to do this. I don't think it's fair to the developer. We do work for them, but I wouldn't believe because I live right by that site. I live close to that site than I think anybody in this room closer to that site.
Thank you. Your
Thank
time
you
is
very
up.
much.
Thank you. Public forum is still open. Public forum is now closed. Madam City Attorney, you wanted to say something?
Yes, just to address the legal issues really quickly with respect to whether there is or isn't a violation of the lease agreement. I just want to edify for the council that indeed the tenant cannot place any hazardous substance on the property. So the question is, well, what is hazardous substance, and is this substance hazardous, and also whether there is any violation of environmental law. So Mr. Schulman mentioned that there is no violation of environmental law, but when you look at the Durham report, it states that there is a violation of section 24-42 and 24-40 sub 1, as well as 24-42 sub 3, which is a county code. And a county code under the lease is one of the environmental laws that the tenant has to abide by. So based on just that rudimentary overview, absolutely there is at least a potential of a violation of the lease for number 1, having hazardous material on the site, and number 2, violating at least 2 county code sections. Are there other environmental laws that are perhaps being violated here by some federal laws or some other state laws, I cannot state, and if you, I'm not sure which direction that the council would be going to. If you're considering having an independent study of whether the material is indeed hazardous enough to meet this threshold, then we can perhaps do that and also look at whether any other environmental laws are being violated, and then what would our remedies be as a result of said violation.
Okay, 2 questions. I have made my recommendation from the beginning, and I think I'm sticking on with it in terms of having an independent study done, that the developer should pay for it in order for us to ensure to our citizens that there is no harm that is happening or there is harm. We need to make a clear decision from an independent point of view. My question to you is this. The gentleman earlier talked about the little people being fired. Are we talking about, was it referring to the dumpsters, people dumping the field? Mr. Celestin?
He's a contractor on the site.
So he was one of the dumpers?
He works for the developer.
That's not my question.
No, he's a contractor.
He's talking about people being laid off as of last week. I'm wondering, are the people or the one driving the trucks bringing the field on the site?
No, the water truck that water down the field is one of his employee, and he does the landscaping and some other work for the developer.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on site as a subcontractor. Is one of the subcontractors. I've had him on site before the developer as our subcontractor, and he continues to do maintenance for the site for the developer, and he has his employees on the site which will not be affected by that, except, well, I don't think any of them except the water guy, except the guy who's watering down. And that's, the field operation is not the only thing going on site.
Doing the study by having the study being done by an independent scientist or group, how does it affect those who are employed? You just mentioned earlier people being fired because of that. Mr. Celestin just clarified for us. You have the contract to clean up the landscaping?
Well, we do the landscaping. There's also several other elements on there. Biscayne Landing is extremely proactive at making sure that site looks good, because Durham's on that site all the time, so I make sure the grass is cut.
That's not what I want to know.
Well,
My
when the
question
trucks
is very
come on,
simple.
okay. When the trucks were coming in a lot, we were sweeping 143rd Street 3 times a week. Now we're only doing it once a week. They're so particular about anything that comes on that site that shouldn't belong in there. My guys pick up cigarette butts, tampon plastic things come in there. Anything, a piece of plastic, it goes into a dumpster and gets disposed off site. Those guys are no longer working there as well. The water truck, because the trucks aren't coming on site, that's Biscayne Landing call. But there's little people, Haitian Americans, live in North Miami that are on, that lost their jobs because they're not working there.
Listen. I don't appreciate you bringing up Haitian American, thinking we're going to be sensitive to that.
No, I'm sorry. That's
when
just my
we're
employees.
talking about people's health, when we're talking about decent human being, being victimized on this, I don't think the word Haitian American will do.
I was
But
just
it was
stating
a
my
simple
employees.
question.
No.
It was a very simple question that I asked that Mr. Celestin clarified for me.
And Madam Mayor, if I may mention something, we have 15 different activities going there on site currently by the developer. I think shutting down the site, it's probably not the right thing, because we have surveyors, we have other operations. We can deal with the field operation, which is currently, we've already stopped that. We did that months ago. In fact, the reason if we were successful, Durham did not approve for them to continue using the stuff, they would not have been able to use this because we issue our stop order, which later on, due to some diligence and the will of the director, one guy that what he knows I wish, and then this other gentleman here is my professor, the top science at the University of Florida. So these guys, I can't argue. I'm not even a scientist compared to them. I learned from these guys, so I can say that we have many activities on site right now. If you want to stop the field operation but you must allow the site to go forward because we have many more activities ongoing currently.
No, that was not part of my recommendation. The first one was to ensure that we have an independent scientist do the study. The second one is to ensure that that field is covered and no more dumping until we have the results. Those are my suggestions and recommendation.
Yes, Madam Mayor, and that's, as the author of this item, that's why it's here before you tonight, is to get, our recommendation is to get a independent person. We can have it by the next council
As a
meeting.
matter of fact, we should have one at all time, not only when there's crises like that. We should have our own scientists on the site. We should have somebody monitoring it. Mr. Celestin is the contractor, he's not a scientist. We must have our representative on the site at all time that would go ahead and conduct those type of studies. Because this has been going on for a long time until it blows. Why do we have to do damage control when we can do prevention?
Well, I can say this isn't damage control now that Durham and the Quality Control Board has issued their findings.
Mr.
That's
City
why this
Manager,
item is
that would
before
have
you.
not come in front of this board if it wasn't for Mr. Wallen calling me and telling me about it.
It would
And
have.
if it wasn't for Mr. Celestin, I called, we sat down for 3 hours and talked in depth about this for me to have a good comprehension of it. It would have just slid down under the rug without anybody knowing what's going on.
Madam Mayor, the state law have certain guideline as to who you can have managing the site, and there are certain requirement of training, and the only school in the state that has an environmental school of solid waste management is the University of Florida, where this gentleman served as a professor, where I am trained and certified and state licensed as an underground engineering certified environmentalist.
You are not a scientist, Mr. Celestin. What I'm saying is that we want to
Is
make
that
sure.
a part of your contract?
No.
That's part of my contract,
That's
yes.
a part of
No,
his
no,
contract.
no.
You cannot hire the
You get paid for that.
That's part of my
Not
Maybe-
sit there. We can have somebody on a contractual basis that could come from time to time and do the analysis. That's
I
what I'm saying.
understand, Mayor, and what we say, the money that is getting paid is a part of his contract. Unless you're gonna hire someone else,
To conduct studies.
is a part of the contract.
If you were to bring
If
you
you're
were to
gonna
bring
bring
a
someone
scientist
else
or
to
an
add to the
engineer
contract.
if you bring anybody else to the site, he would have to have the certification that I have and the license that I have to be able to manage the site. It's a solid waste environmental management license that the only school that issue that training is University of Florida.
But you're talking about school. We can have millions of people from that school.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
only I'm saying that's the only license you need,
Okay.
and you have to be FDP certified to do it.
Okay, are you making a motion, Madam Mayor, for I can second it, or the recommendation is good enough? Are we in recess?
How can we move the item for
Staff's
for-
recommendation is
I'll
to
make
get
a
an
motion.
independent person.
a motion to do
evaluate.
what? To
To have an independent consultant firm to conduct the more testing.
but we need to understand that he get paid for that.
Can we
Are we
let
gonna
Mr.
remove his
Galvin
money?
make his motion?
I thought that was your
He
motion.
started talking. I made my recommendation, whether you want it on a form of motion or what. This is what I would like to see done.
What it is?
So
ma-
if
ma-
you want
Mayor.
to second what I just said, unless you want to add, well, we need to finish with this, so you can make a friendly amendment to it, or any of you here.
I'll second it if what I understand is that you said there's going to be an independent scientist do a report at the cost of the developer and making a report back to us at the next council meeting? Is that what your motion was?
Yeah.
Okay, and the next council meeting's second Tuesday of October. Is that doable?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion to hire a private scientist tester, however you want to phrase that.
And no dumping in the meantime.
Can I second for discussion? How do we, Madam Attorney, through the mayor, can we require the developer to pay for this? Is this part of our contract? Or will the developer agree to do that?
Hey, they didn't mind violating 9.1. If they have an issue with this,
Well, it's not it's not in the in the lease that they're required to pay for an independent study. They are required to remediate any hazardous substance or any environmental issues, but they're not required to pay for an independent study.
I'm just afraid our motion requiring them to pay for it, if they don't agree, then then our motion is moot. And we have to then start suing on our contract to say they're in violation. And I'm just wondering if the developer will agree to pay for the inspection report.
Madam Mayor, I will have the developer pay for it to accept the motion as is.
You will have the developer pay for it?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, may I make one request of?
We do have a motion on the floor. Why don't we continue with the motion and then?
He's
from
here
there
if
we
you'd
take
like
it.
to ask him to pay for it, but I will get him
Mr. Tillman,
to
would
pay
you
for
pay
it.
for an independent study to be done, to be conducted on the field?
Olita Partners will pay for the independent study, and like I said before, we endorse it. I mean, we know what they're going to find. We tested we tested the dickens out of this material, and we're fine with that. We're not talking about that much money. I know you guys want to go forward with some sort of a decision here, and I'm fine with that.
We just want to know, we would just want to put our residents at ease that there is no immediate danger to them, and there is no question marks. We want to make sure that everybody's safe before we can make any further decision. So
I endorse the
have
move, yes. Okay.
And we will be selecting the consultant.
Okay. So, Mr.
Mayor Thundro?
Yes. Of course.
Councilman Bieneme?
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steril?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Galvin?
Yes.
Measure passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now we're into item.
We're done.
We're not done. Council reports. Yeah. Any report?
I just have one. Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Are
go
we
ahead.
going in order, or?
We have to go in order.
Oh, okay.
Councilwoman Keys, report.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. After this evening, I'd like to say that I'm very disappointed. Excuse me, please. I'm just really disappointed in the fact that I was not allowed to finish what I was saying. A lot of any repetitiveness, I apologize, but had I been able to speak without interruption by the rest of the council, maybe that would not have happened. But I feel by shutting off my voice, you have shut the voice off of my constituents in District 2. Also, I was going to speak on the issue, and I was going to speak for the entire city, the residents also of District 1, 2, and 4. So you've also shut down their voice. And I'm just really disappointed. What I want to say is this city is not about a camp game. We're not divided into teams, the green team, the blue team, the red team, and the purple team. It's not who can get the most money for their district. This is not a game. This is not a competition. I'm really disappointed. I know people be going out tomorrow saying, oh, I got money, and this one didn't get money. This is not what it's about. Mayor Tondreau, you want the downtown district to flourish. You're looking for activity. By not representing the entire 4 districts and allowing $1.5 million to go to one district is really a disservice to the rest of the city. We have very life safety issues with our sidewalks, and to worry about beautification in one district when the rest of the city is in great need of structural improvements, I don't get it, and you're also not helping our downtown district. There are people who've been living in this city for 20, 30, 40 years who have been paying their taxes. We had to buy Biscayne Landing. We had a $30 million bond. We had to pay for it. I know I paid for it for 30 years, and now what little bit is left, you're giving away to one little section for beautification. I'm disappointed that our resolutions cannot be accurate, that contain misstatements. We've got, as Ms. Montgomery said, we've been paying, the residents have been paying their taxes year after year after year. And if we are going to be annexing properties and let someone come in and all of a sudden get beautiful new sidewalks, That's really not fair to our taxpayers. And for me to have expressed that, and for not allowing the residents who came here to speak on it, it's really not fair. I'm sorry, and I really hope that I get a little more respect, and the constituents in my district and the rest of the city are respected a little better. Again, this is not a competition. This is all of us working together. We're supposed to be united. We're not supposed to divvy up our city and give money to one corner when it's needed throughout. That being said, I'd just like to mention Citizens Forum. I love that it's in the front where people have something to say, but again, things do go on in the council meeting, and people would like to speak. We have a lot of items that people do not get to speak on because they're not resolutions, ordinances, and people would like to speak after the meeting. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Galvin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to wish a very happy birthday to an incredibly good friend of this community. Myrna Pavlak turns 80 years old today. I don't think she'd mind on this big milestone me telling how old she is. But Myrna Pavlak, she's not here tonight, but founding member of the Youth Opportunity Board, one of the driving forces, Hall of Fame recipient, driving force for the North Miami Athletic Stadium being built. Myrna turns 80 great years today. I called her this morning to wish her happy birthday, and she was just very excited to know that we remember her. And so just want to make sure we say it publicly one last time for the day. Happy birthday, Myrna.
All right. Ask Myrna for me what she drinks, Toy, to keep on going.
I've got
very strong
I've
at
got
81 years old. Wow. I'd like to drink what she drinks. Councilman Bien-Aimé?
Just, I want to announce that on Thursday, October the 3rd at 10 a.m., we're going to have a workshop, a vendor workshop, and I want to invite every businesses in the community who wish to do business with the city and to be there. It's going to be Thursday, October the 3rd at 10 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be at Griffin Center, 12220 Griffin Boulevard. All the residents and businesses, including District 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stereo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know probably in your report you will talk about the Black Caucus meetings.
No, I'm not. I'll let you do that.
Well, that's boring. I'll let you do it. But anyways, the meeting tonight, or what have been said here tonight, is deja vu all over again. I remember when I just got elected in 2005, when I had to fight so hard to bring money into my district. But fortunately, I did have council members that actually supported my cause, understanding that District 4 was one of the most neglected, let me say the most neglected district in the cities. And most of my council recognized that and supported my cause. And right now, I still have to fight for the district. I still have to be represented, but I don't have to fight as hard as the other part of the city. Another remark that I have to remind us up here, when we're talking about one district, it seems like we're talking about Haiti and Cuba, but we forgot that all the 4 districts are in city of North Miami. Fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, not all of us has money to live in some part of the city, but we're still paying taxes. We're still members of this great city of North Miami. Another point is that I will address it specifically to Councilwoman Keys. There is a slight difference between being an activist, when we have to stand down there fighting our cause. When we up here, we actually have the whole power to make and create policies, to demand, to vote on issues that represent our district. If you don't learn from that, you're going to spend the rest of your 4 years fighting council up here for what they're asking or what they're fighting for the district. What you need to do is to understanding your district, meet with your constituent, get to know the needs, and come up here and ask for what you want.
I did that, Councilwoman.
Because
This is a report. This is a
and
report,
what I'm
Councilwoman.
feeling up here, if a council member bring money up here, it's okay. I'm not talking to her. I'm talking for my constituent and for the people that understand the politics, the dynamic up here. We are not we are not advocating, but we are creating and making policies. We are votes to represent a district. We are not all of us are mayors. So once our citizens actually voted us, they know that they're voting us to represent a district. He has his right to fight on behalf. He could have asked for the entire $139 million to go through his district. That's his right. But this is my right to say, not in my watch, that's not going to happen because I have a district to represent as well. But I am no longer there anymore because I understand the dynamic. We are a whole city. We all have to go through this specific issue that we're going through. So anyways, to make it short, what I'm suggesting is that instead of us concentrating or focus all our energy fighting each other up here for what we ask. Like I heard one of your constituents, I'm hoping, or a Scott constituent, make a request regarding the North Shore Drive or the Bay Shore. So this is not my district, but I think it's fair enough if he feels that there is something going on by his house or he cares for the ocean come before us as his representative or as a council member living in the city of North Miami. The water is not on behalf of my backyard. I don't live on the water, but I feel that I enjoy the water as well. I have the right to fight for what's right for the city, but I'm not going to fight Scott if he brings something, an item for the city, said I need my fair share. What I need to do is to make sure that I cannot fight for water because I don't have water in my backyard, but my constituent needs sidewalk. My constituent needs a better sasso pole needs to be refurbished, or the tennis court need to be refurbished. I will come up here and fight for that. And what makes matters worse, I have constituents that actually calling me on behalf of Councilwoman Carol Keys, telling me that I should not support another councilman item. That doesn't make any sense. To me, if we're saying that we don't want to be ganged up, we need to revisit this. If I'm not going to support his item, which I'm going to need his vote, this is not a Haitian or white or black issues. This is a city of North Miami issues. If I'm not going to support Scott item that's good for the city, that means he's not going to support my item as well. So at the end of the day, what we're going to do? Circle around black and white, or what is it? Gang issues, blue and white, or east and west side. I grow up. I understand the game. I am no longer there, which I was never there, but that was my right to fight for my district. I will continue to fight for my district. But just for the record, I will never stand before or after a council member that wants to advocate for their district. As a matter of fact, I will bring my item before the council for my district. So having all that nonsense, going to different radio, we're calling it, that's not a gang up. Please, going calling my constituent, telling them not to vote for somebody else. You know what? I don't have that kind of time. My time right now, as a council member, is to sit with it's to mimic. Actually, he mimicked me. But I think that's a good thing. Is to continue to do what I always do, is to meet with my constituent, to listen with what are their needs are, and bring it to this dais and tell them, you know what, this is what I need. I can care less of what you need. Maybe those are the needs for your constituent, but I have needs. If you don't stop the charade, we're going to spend the rest of the 4 years fighting with council members for what they're asking for. Having said all that, good night, everyone. I have my husband waiting at home for me. Madam Mayor, make it quick. I'm going home early. Good night, everybody. And I love you all.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilwoman. My report is on the, starting October 1st, before October 1st, we're going to have many town hall meetings regarding the affordable health care, those who call it Obamacare. They are coming in the city of North Miami. We're going to have in several districts several informative meetings to citizens, question answers. People are coming from Washington. We had an opportunity while we were at the Congressional Black Caucus to go to the executive office and meet with the staff of President Obama regarding health care. The haters, sorry, we went there, haha.
That was a nice
Anyway, it was a wonderful meeting, and they're coming to North Miami. We are the leading city who have taken that healthcare initiative to ensure that our citizens are well informed, and also they are prepared as of October the 1st for us to enroll those who are eligible to be enrolled. Many questions were asked as well regarding immigration status of the citizens. Would that affect them? Anyway, it was wonderful, wonderful, and I have to say kudos to my staff, Stephanie Thomas, who did all the legwork for us in terms of the Obamacare and put up all made all the arrangements for us to be at the executive office in the White House to visit and to understand what the healthcare, the Obamacare was.
Madam Attorney,
And
was it
also-
advertised? Before I heard the Ethics Commission call me that the mayor and I was in the same room.
Yes.
No, it was advertised
the
that we
Congressional
were going.
Black Caucus.
I was just making sure.
I
Events
hear
were
you.
advertised.
Shh. And also coming in October, it will be the Walk the Way initiative. I'm encouraging all of you to join us. We're going to be walking, especially those who have metabolic diseases in terms of diabetic, hypertension, or what have my view, or of a couple of weights to be shed. We are inviting you. We're going to start walking 3 times a week in the city. We're going to have trainers, and once a month we will have a nutritionist. We are very strong when it comes to health of our residents. We are asking you to join us 3 times a week. We're going to be kicking off on October the 19th at the Cagney Park. Anyway, all of you are going to be receiving email and invitations. That's all I have to say. Let's say, Mr. City
No reports.
Clerk, no reports.
No report, Mayor.
Yay. Madam City Manager, City Attorney,
No reports.
no reports. Mr. City Manager.
No report.
Wow. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All right. See you next week.